Welcome to Franchise Marketing Radio, brought to you by SEO Samba. Comprehensive high-performing marketing solutions for mature and emerging franchise brands. To supercharge your franchise marketing, go to SEOSamba.com. That's SEOSAMBA.com.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of Franchise Marketing Radio, and this is going to be a fun one. Today on the show, we have Terri Harof, and she is with Workout Anytime. Welcome, Terri.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Lee.
Well, before we get too far into things, for the folks who don't know, tell us a little bit about Workout Anytime.
Certainly. So Workout Anytime is a 22-year-old company. We were founded in Douglasville, Georgia, 22 years ago. Opened our first club there, and it's still open today, all these years later. So clearly, this is a model that has lots of legs and a long life, which is great. Our segment is we're in the high value, low cost gym segment, which is the fastest growing segment in the industry. We've got close to 180 clubs in 22 states. And we are opening our first international locations this fourth quarter, one in Costa Rica and two in Honduras. So we're really excited about expanding into international markets.
So now talk about the beginning. Was Workout Anytime built to be a franchise, or was it just somebody's dream of, hey, this is a good idea for a fitness center where I live?
Great question. So our founders have been in the industry forever. John Quattrochi, but he goes by John Q, and Steve Strickland. They actually started off in the business and then got into fitness equipment sales and started a company called Commercial Fitness Products, CFP. And they actually opened that first location in Douglasville more as a showroom for their equipment. So that was kind of the reason for the first location. Although they did, they had that whole idea of 24-hour gym and members having a key card to be able to get in, 24 hours a day. And so they really believed in their idea of opening a 24-hour gym. They did not get into the business initially to franchise, but they did get into the business with the plans of expanding, and they did. They opened about 8 clubs themselves. And while they were opening gyms, there were members who loved the concept and inquired about becoming a franchisee with our company. So they decided to start franchising a couple of years after getting into business in '99, and really kind of grew organically. Our first franchises were sold right here in Georgia, and some of the corporate locations were turned into franchises. Then we went to Tennessee, and we've definitely grown organically, but we're all over the place. We've got locations in Oregon. We're about to ink a deal for a multi-unit deal in Washington State, which is great. We're in Maine. We're in Pennsylvania. So 4 years ago, we didn't have any locations in Texas, and now we've got 19 locations in Dallas. So we're booming all over the place now.
So now, how did your brand handle the pandemic, where in a lot of cases folks weren't allowed to go to places like gyms? How did you kind of help your franchisees through that kind of chaotic time?
Sure, great question. Well, the great news is we did not close any of our clubs permanently because of the pandemic, which is huge. Some clubs based in the states that they're in had a more difficult time than other clubs. But the first thing that our executive team shared with all of our franchisees and our team members is what we considered clean prior to the pandemic was no longer clean. And we put a huge emphasis on squeaky clean and sanitizing the clubs. I think the fact that our clubs are not big box, they're not 40,000 square feet, they're typically about 8,500 square feet. Members see us, see our team members cleaning, all the time. We were absolutely able to have space, between equipment, the different equipment pieces, so that there was the social distancing requirements. So members were able to feel really, really good about that. And then the other thing is we have a piece of equipment that we've actually had for several years called AirFix, and it is an air purifier. And prior to the pandemic, it was not, you didn't have to have one, but it was definitely recommended. And many of our franchisees did have them in their clubs. And of course, we've got collateral materials in the clubs letting members know what this piece of equipment does and how valuable it is for the gyms and for people's health. And, once the pandemic came upon us, that is now a required piece of equipment for all of our gyms, for all of our new franchisees coming in now, and very, very highly recommended to everybody. And most of our franchisees have gone ahead and adopted and purchased it and put it in their clubs. And we let our members know that we have them, and it's definitely it definitely gives them peace of mind when they're working out at our gym.
Now, were there any other kind of pivots that had to occur because of the pandemic that you had to deal with during the peak of the crisis, but now is just kind of something that is just enhancing the value?
Sure. Well, some of the other things that happened, we went from being 24-hour to being open only during staffed hours. And we did that so that we could absolutely monitor the traffic and monitor, where people were working out and making sure that there was social distancing. In the states where where masks were mandated, we also wanted to make sure that, of course, people were following those rules. And now we obviously learned. I think as a country and probably as the world, we've all learned a lot about the pandemic, about COVID and now you don't have to be 6 feet away. Now it's 3 feet away, and you don't have to wear multiple masks. And we. In the states where masks are mandated, of course, that is policy. In the states where masks are not mandated, it's up to the members whether they want to wear a mask or not, or the franchisee. If the franchisee says that they want everyone wearing masks, then of course, that's their option as well. We've just, I think across the board, the emphasis on washing your hands and really not just cleaning, but super cleaning your club and your equipment and sanitizing. I mean, I think that's something now that's going to stick with us always. And that's definitely not a bad thing.
Now, what about the advent of all of these kind of at-home equipment choices and memberships? How does Workout Anytime kind of deal with that?
Yeah. Great question. So luckily, prior to the pandemic, we had rolled out a Workout Anytime app. And it's an extension of who we are and what we are. It actually gives additional information on healthy lifestyles and healthy eating. And of course, there's a bunch of workout videos that members can choose from, all different types of workout videos. And, with the pandemic, obviously, we had people who were not coming in the club, but we wanted them to still get the benefit of Workout Anytime. So we put a really big emphasis on making sure members know that this is a tool that we have, that they have full access to. When a new member joins, we automatically get them signed up, for the app as well, get it downloaded on their phone. And we're seeing it's amazing the buy-in and the adoption that the app we've gotten from our members, and they really, really like it. They like to know that if they're not able to come into the gym for whatever reason, that there's that there's an alternative to them. So it's definitely an added value that's been really, really beneficial to our members. And one thing we've definitely seen is, and actually our membership sales are up as our franchise sales. And I think that people know now more so than ever the importance of health and wellness and taking the personal responsibility for their health and wellness. So, we're seeing really, really strong sales this year.
So now, what does that ideal franchisee look like? Is that someone that's kind of opening up a onesie where they're just, maybe they just got laid off and they want to dip their toe. Maybe they like fitness and this is something that they said, hey, this would be great in my town. Are they kind of empire builders where they're like, okay, we want to take over the market? Are they professional franchisees where they have a portfolio of other kind of brands and they're like, hey, let's add the workout anytime to complement because we're already dealing with that type of a customer?
Sure. Lee, great question. And honestly, it's all the above. And I'll give you some examples. I've got a couple franchisees. We call it food to fitness. One of my franchisees has 16 Little Caesars. Another franchisee has 11 McDonald's. And they were wanting to diversify their portfolio. They love the franchise model because, of course, we give people the playbook on how to be successful, and we find that if you will follow the playbook, you can do very, very well with our model. So we have multi-unit franchisees who've got multi-brands who are part of our portfolio. They like it because I'm not going to say workout anytime is easy in terms of operations, but it's a very simple business model, only requires 3 to 4 employees. If your quote unquote opener has a flat tire and can't get in, it's business as usual because your members have got a key to get into the club. There's no inventory. In the restaurant business, you have to worry about inventory and steaks walking out your back door and the health department. Well, of course, you don't have any of those issues with us. So it's definitely a much simpler business model. We have franchisees who, matter of fact, our largest franchisee was a member with us. He was a member at our Cookeville, Tennessee location, and he's in a completely different business. His family is actually in the bean business, and they have these huge pieces of equipment, and they go up and down the East Coast harvesting beans. And they start in South Florida, and they actually have our franchisee actually has a residence there. And he reached out to us to ask us if we had a workout anytime there in South Florida, in Homestead actually, and we didn't. And we said, but why don't you open one? And he was like, oh, okay, great idea. But then he thought about it. He called us back about a week later, and sure enough, he opened our first location in South Florida. He now has 16 locations in 5 states, so he's doing phenomenally well. And we do get a lot of, I do get a lot of leads from members who, they work out at our gym. They really like what they see, and they think that they can do this too. Other franchisees, another large pool of my leads come from people who are, maybe like I've got a franchisee who's been an engineer for 30 years. He was a couple of years away from retiring, and he knew that he wasn't going to stop working. He was going to retire from engineering, but he wanted to do something that he was really passionate about, and health and fitness was something that he truly was passionate about. Matter of fact, his name is John Waskow, and interestingly enough, his wife, Sarah Waskow, has a franchise called FranNet. So she actually sells franchises, and she knows, she represents, over 100 different brands in all different industries, and actually presented this opportunity to her husband. He purchased 2 locations at the beginning, and he just has purchased 2 more. So he now has 4 locations. So we get people from a variety of different ways. We get lots of referrals from our franchisees, which is of course wonderful. And 73% of our franchisees are multi-unit franchisees, which is definitely a testament to the strength of our brands.
So now you mentioned that the growth has been pretty rapid. Are there certain regions you're targeting into 2022?
Well, we definitely, growing organically absolutely makes sense. Just because of where we have people and how we can support people. We are definitely our club in Oregon is doing very, very well, and our operator there has plans of opening multiple units there. And actually, his brother-in-law is developing Washington, and is going to be doing multiple units in Washington. We just sent the paperwork out, so he'll be a new franchisee with us in the next week or so. So we're definitely going to continue targeting that part of the country, because we look for areas throughout the country and actually through the world that are underserved, markets that don't have a gym on every corner. And there are lots of those markets that are out there, and out there in Oregon, Washington, Idaho, states like that. There are very, very health conscious people that are out there, and there's lots of really exciting opportunities. So we're certainly concentrating on that part of the country. Florida, some of our top clubs are in Florida, and Florida, of course, is a huge state. So we're targeting Florida, Alabama, Texas, where we've got lots of clubs now in Dallas, but there's lots of parts of the state that we don't have clubs in, Houston being one of them. So that's another area that we're absolutely targeting. We have a new franchisee that's opening in Wisconsin and Minnesota, and we find you get a new club in different parts of the country and new eyeballs seeing it. And then we always get lots of leads from people who are interested in, because they're really impressed with our brand.
Does your brand work better in kind of those primary large cities, or does it work good in the suburbs or exurbs?
Yeah, we absolutely have clubs in larger cities, in Chattanooga and Atlanta. We do find that, typically, your real estate's going to be more expensive in those markets. And so we try to find those underserved markets. And so they're not that they're small towns necessarily, but they're smaller than the larger markets. And they typically, we've got a tool that we use called Buxton, and Buxton allows me to go in I can go throughout the country and find underserved markets, that don't have clubs on every corner, but that do have the population to support, to support a workout anytime. I look at demographics, I look at income levels, I look at what the growth is of those markets, and we can, find that's what's exciting for me, is there are so many of those underserved markets that are absolutely untapped. So my job is to tap them.
So now for you personally, what's the most rewarding part of the job? Is it the kind of the act of selling, or is it the kind of success of the franchisee? What gets you fired up every day?
I am a big believer in relationships, and I love, relationship building. As I tell potential franchisees, my job is to give them all the information they need to make a great decision, whatever that decision is. And, there are some people who come to us and, we may not be the right fit for them. They may have, very big ideas on the type of gym they want, and it may not be what our gym is. And, and we really need, we don't want those rogue franchisees who are trying to change what we know that works. Now, of course, we do adapt and we do make changes as we go, because we've got to stay fresh, and we've got to listen to the wants and needs of our members, and of course our franchisees too. But I love all the different people that I meet, who come from all different backgrounds and who live in all different places. And I really enjoy the whole process of taking them through the whole process of seeing whether or not this is going to be a good fit for them. And then obviously, for me, once we decide that somebody is a great fit for us, and they decide that they're a great fit, that we're a great fit for them, it's extremely rewarding being able to help them, with their dream of owning a gym.
Now, any advice for a prospective franchisee out there on how would you vet a different franchise?
Absolutely. Well, obviously, the one thing that you're gonna get as a potential franchisee is you're gonna get the FDD, the franchise disclosure document. It's, ours is a couple hundred pages long, so it's not an easy read, but there's a lot of really, really great information in the FDD. So I highly, highly, highly recommend that people, not just get the FDD and not just, kind of look at it, but really thoroughly read it. In your FDD, you're going to have a list of all the franchisees who are part of the system. the other absolute thing I recommend is talking to franchisees and really hearing from them, what their experience was and how the franchisor supports them. What was training like? What was the real estate process like? How was construction? How was pre-sales and grand opening? What's the support that you get from your franchisees after opening? I think your best form of information is absolutely a franchisee, because they've done it. They've done exactly what these potential franchisees are looking to do. And the franchisees, they're very, very, it's not all, it's not easy always. And there are some hiccups. The great news for potential franchisees is, as the franchisor, we've made the mistakes. We made the mistakes years ago so that you don't have to. But talking to franchisees is absolutely, that to me would be, obviously reading the FDD, but the second most important thing is absolutely talking to franchisees.
Well, Terri, thank you so much for sharing your story today. If somebody wants to learn more about the opportunity, what's the website?
Please visit us at workoutanytime.com.
Good stuff. Well, thank you again for sharing your story. You're doing important work, and we appreciate you.
Thank you, Lee. Thanks so much for having me today. I really enjoyed it.
All right. This is Lee Cantor. We will see you all next time on Franchise Marketing Radio.